Welcome to the channel, everybody. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm a sound dude. Today, we will be looking at and listening to the Rode Podmic and the Lewitt LCT240 Pro. These are both popular and affordable options that, to my ears, sound pretty sweet, especially at these reasonable price points. The reference mic that you are listening to right now is my trusty 24-year-old Sennheiser MKH60. All three mics will be going into a Sound Devices MixPre 6, recording 24-bit 48 kHz wave files. There will be no EQ or compression or any other post-processing except to normalize the levels of all three mics to minus 21 dB LUFS with max peaks at -1. So let's get started. Since the Lewitt and the MKH60 are hotter output condensers, I'm going to be about 6 to 7 inches away from them, but only 4 to 5 inches away from the Podmic. And I'm setting the input gain to see peak meter levels on all mics for this dialogue at around -20. This is the Lewitt LCT240 Pro, a condenser mic that requires phantom power. How can one determine the correct number of mics to own? The formula is simple. N+1, where N equals the number of mics you currently have. Gear acquisition syndrome is real, and we like it that way. This is the Rode Podmic, a dynamic mic that doesn't require phantom power. How can one determine the correct number of mics to own? The formula is simple. N+1, where N equals the number of mics you currently have. Gear acquisition syndrome is real, and we like it that way. Okay, what do you folks think? On my voice, I prefer this Podmic, but just by a little. I'm staying on the Podmic here to mention a few things about it, and then I'll switch over again to the Lewitt for similar concluding thoughts. First, this thing is built like a tank. It's smaller, but actually heavier than the SM7s that we have in a podcast studio at my day gig. If you want to fly it on a boom arm, I suggest not going super cheapo and instead paying extra for one of the sturdier ones to handle this weight. It's designed and manufactured in Australia, something that Rode proudly labels on all of their gear that I own. This is a dynamic mic marketed at podcasters, but it doesn't quite have the rich, heavy bottom that you can get on an SM7 or the super silky mid-range that comes out of an Electro Voice RE20. But for the price of one of those iconic industry standards, you can have 4 of these. And you have to ask yourself, will the average YouTube or podcast listener really hear those differences on their cheap earbuds or the built-in speakers on an off-brand big screen TV from Walmart? I seriously doubt it. We are back on the 240. This, my friends, is a very versatile mic. I won't demo it here, but this thing sounds great on a guitar amp, and I also liked it on my mom's baby grand. The build quality here is solid. It's not as heavy as the Podmic, but the enamel paint job on my white one is flawless. And just like the Podmic, it appears to be all metal construction except for some minor parts common to both mics. And because the 240 appears to share the same case tooling as Lewitt's more expensive 440 Pure, the accessories available at extra cost are nice. I recommend adding the shock mount you see here over the free standard clip that comes with the base package. This custom windscreen looks very cool on video and in person, but it's a little pricey for such a small and seemingly easily manufactured part. I prefer the included foam windscreen for plosives. Not to be outdone, though, Rode has some accessories up their sleeves as well. If you love colors as much as YouTuber Tom Buck does, Rode has the WS14 slip-on windscreens. They come in all sorts of color options and cost around $20. Rode markets the Podmic as already having an internal windscreen for plosives, but if you get right on top of it, as you should with any broadcast dynamic studio mic, you can still have a problem depending on how you speak and how loud your voice is. I think the cheaper foam windscreens work just as well, however. So that's about a wrap. Thanks for watching, and I'll close this out with a repeat of the short reads for each microphone back to back. This is the Lewitt LCT 240 Pro, a condenser mic that requires phantom power. How can one determine the correct number of mics to own? The formula is simple. N+1, where N equals the number of mics you currently have. Gear acquisition syndrome is real, and we like it that way. This is the Rode Podmic, a dynamic mic that doesn't require phantom power. How can one determine the correct number of mics to own? The formula is simple. N+1, where N equals the number of mics you currently have. Gear acquisition syndrome is real, and we like it that way.